how you think he was playing at the time and whether the ancillary stuff affected his play.
I don't know. I really can't tell because we don't know anything. We're not aware of anything. There's a lot of speculation. That's all we know. What I can tell you is Sam Ersson has played extremely well, has earned the right to more ice time, and we're excited by our goaltending we're doing, especially the way Sam played and came up and won some big games for us.
Did Carter give you any indication that his reasons for taking this leave were affecting his play?
He did not.
I know you obviously are limited in terms of what you can say. That said, if Carter is ultimately involved in the investigation, do you have a plan in place as to how the organization will respond and if Carter Hart will still be deemed as someone you want to stay in the organization?
I cannot comment on that at this time. We will be waiting for guidance from the league on that.
Can you address Carter's play, independent of the investigation and the leave of absence? We expected Carter Hart to, continue his ascent, and that didn't seem to be development this year.
Yeah, Carter Hart was having a very good season up to this point.
I mean, this is a team that it's been up, down. It's probably overachieved, I guess, to a certain extent. How does having a key cog here, not here, affect how you go forward?
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with Carter. Now the team has put themselves in a great situation. That's the exciting part. The other exciting part is that Sam Ersson has really taken a big step forward. And we'll have to protect him as much as we can. He's still developing. He's still a good young goalie. Getting better and better, so we'll have to be careful. But we're excited. That his play and that he can carry us moving forward until we know a little bit more on Carter's situation.
Do you have any concerns about how it might affect the team, the team's play, the morale inside the locker room, and anything?
Yeah, I don't. I haven't been to that point yet.
Are you operating under the assumption that Carter will be unavailable for an extended period of time?
I really don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry.
So you've got no timeline whatsoever about when any of this will,
No.
to public
At this time, we're going Sam Ersson. We know for this week, Sam Ersson and Cal Peterson will be our two goalies.
Danny, obviously in the off-season, you acquired a goaltender, you signed Ersson to a two-year contract extension, you kept Sandstrom here for a while. Were those moves done knowing in mind that this was potentially...
No. The one thing we wanted to do was bolster our goaltending position. You saw last summer we drafted two good young goaltenders with our second and third round picks. We believe in developing goaltenders. Cal came in the trade. We felt, Carter was the number one. We felt that Felix and Sam and Cal were all good options to carry us forward. They were all goalies that can come and play some games as well. So that was the belief. That was the mindset going into it. Is let's make sure we have strong goaltending. In front of a young team, a lot of young players on the roster. That was the idea behind it.
Danny, have you been in touch at all with Carter and his representation, or do you
I have
just
not.
to hear from the league?
I have not.
Okay.
Danny, what has been the most unexpected or surprising facet of you guys playing so well for so long?
There's many of them. It's been exciting how our team has played this year. I think it starts with the culture change. I really believe it started last year with John Tortorella. And then you look at how hard, and the one thing that we keep hearing from other teams is how hard we are to play against. That's to me the really exciting. It's the basis. It's the foundation to what we were trying to build here. And now having that in place, it gives the chance for our young guys to get better, to improve, to take a step forward. And we've seen that from many of our young guys. But we wouldn't have been able to do that without the play of our veterans, and not just their play, but the way they carry themselves around the team. Obviously, bringing back or having the luxury to get Couturier and Atkinson back in the area. Scotty Lawton, Nick Delorier, Hathaway are all great veterans. Adding a guy like Mark Stahl, I know people were wondering, why do you bring a veteran like Mark Stahl, who's probably not going to play every game? His presence around the team has been amazing. The way he has helped guys like York and Zamula and probably now Drysdale. So those are the things that I've been really happy with this year.
And can you also address, when John Tortorella was hired, you had a lot of question marks and veterans, and it seemed an interesting hire at the very least. And then when you did this sort of reset, it seemed even more interesting. I don't know that I've seen a person exercise greater control, self-control of his nature than John Tortorella after some of these wins and losses. Are you surprised at all that he's been kind of such a steady hand, considering his profile over the last 3 decades?
Not really, because I've known John. I had him as an assistant coach early in my career, but it's always different as an assistant coach and a head coach. I didn't get to see him for about 20 years, or see him on a daily basis for about 20 years, and I saw some of the press conference, and I like everybody else, I had my doubts until we started interviewing him. I was part of that process, and I was really impressed by some of the stuff in his preparation and how he wanted to attack the team and how he wanted his team to play. So he forced me to change my mind on him, and the more I get to know him, the more impressed I am. Kind of like everybody else, I had the perception that John Tortorella was more of a coach that was good with the veterans, and when I'm realizing it's not the case at all. He's actually excellent for the young guys, because he gets them at a young age. He can still mold them and kind of build them the way they should be to be the ultimate pros. And that's what I've been really impressed with. You look at how our young guys are developing under him. So I think that's a combination of him and the veterans that we've had around. Good veterans, good pros that understand what we're trying to build here. So I've been really happy with both the veterans and John Tortorella. And I have to say, his coaching staff too. John would be the first one to tell you that his assistant coach, everybody involved, they've done a tremendous job. The time spent, you look at to me, you think of Cam York, his development. I mean, last year until I think December, he was in the minors, and now we're asking him to play heavy minutes against top line guys on other teams. The way Zamula has developed this year, that's all credit to the coaching staff, and I could go on and on with many players, but that's part of the reason why we are where we are more than halfway through the season, sitting in a playoff spot.
There's still a lot of hockey between now and the 6 weeks of the trade deadline.
Yep.
Is there anything you've seen so far that's made you want to shift your thinking as far as what you might do?
No. We're still thinking about the future. One of the things, and this is great. What's happening right now, this is great because our young guys are acquiring a lot of experience, having the chance to play in some really meaningful games, and as it's going to keep going for at least the next couple months. This is a great experience, so I'm really excited about that. But again, you know, we keep an eye on the future. We've said from the beginning we wanted to build a team that was going to be a Stanley Cup contender for years to come, and not just a one in, one out, one in, one out, like it's, you know, has been going on. So the eye is still on the future.
Danny, you mentioned a little bit ago about how this is more or less Sam Emerson's net for however long that Hart's leave of absence lasts. Obviously, he pretty much has to take the reins now, given the situation, given how he's played. But do you think he's a goalie who potentially could be a, you know, not an every night starter, because obviously the NHL isn't that league anymore, but could be a guy who can shoulder the workload for years to come here, if that's what...
Of a number one, definitely. I believe that. You know, at the same time, we have to be careful. You don't want to, you know, put too much pressure early. You want to still make sure, because he's developing, he's still young, he's still acquiring experience. I mean, this is a great opportunity for him to shoulder a lot of the heavy load, and we'll see, but I do believe so, yes.
Danny, you talked about the culture and how important that's been to the success so far. And you also just mentioned that you haven't changed your outlook in terms of, or your plan, that is, in terms of just keeping an eye on the future. How do you walk the line of maybe, you know, making some moves, maybe trying to acquire assets for some current guys on the roster without upending that culture and keeping it strong?
Well, a lot of it will depend on the marketplace. You know, we're not going to make trades just to make trades. You know, if there's something that makes sense that we feel makes us better for the future, we'll strongly consider it. The one thing that I won't be doing is I won't be trading, you know, prime assets just to make a run. I'm not going to trade, you know, first, second round picks. You know, you could come back at me and say, well, you traded, you know, Cutter Gauthier. I'm not going to do another one of those trades. I don't have anything planned that way. That was a different situation, you know, and we felt we were acquiring a great player in return in Drysdale. So if there's a hockey trade that we feel makes us better down the road, but we're not going to trade assets just to make a playoff run.
Danny, how do you feel development's going in Lehigh Valley?
I'm happy about it. You look at, you know, some of the players that have come up here this year who were in Lehigh Valley just last year. I mentioned York, I mentioned Zamula, Urson is one of them, Brink, Forrester, Frost. So there's a lot of guys that have been through the development process in Lehigh Valley, and it's more than that. Last year when I got the job, one of the things that I wanted to improve was the development of our player. Lehigh Valley being part of it, also our development guys. You know, starting with Riley Armstrong, Nick Schultz, and company. They've done, you know, a great job with our guys, and it's going to be critical with the timeline that we have. What we're trying to do, the development of our young players will be critical to what happens to us down the road.
With so many young players, you know, being good in so many different positions, where do you see the core of those young players in the future, even after Tortorella leaves?
I mean, it's tough to say. It can always go sideways. You never know for sure. You know, right now I haven't had any thoughts about who's beyond Torts. I expect Torts to be here for a while. I like what he's doing, how he's molding this team, how he's molding the young players, surrounded by good quality veterans. So I'm excited about where it's going. There's a lot of guys that have taken a big step forward, and from our young players this year, and to me that's really exciting.
You have this.
Talk about the young players though, and but there seems to be kind of stopgap with the guys in Lehigh Valley. They're not getting called up. Do you worry about their development? Maybe the guys who maybe should be getting a chance to the NHL, but because there's not space,
Nope.
not getting them.
I am not worried about that at all. Our guys keep playing. Part of it too is we've had success here, and we haven't had to deal with many injuries, luckily. So, but our guys are still developing. Part of the reason why Bobby Brink was sent down was because we don't want him at this stage of his career to be playing 8-9 minutes a night or in and out of the lineup. We want him to be playing 20 minutes a night, and that's why he's going there. Guys like Samu Tuamala, Elliot Denoyer. On defense, we have a lot of guys that are not too far, starting with Emile Andre, Ronnie Attard. Granz has been having a great season as well. Like, I could go down the list. It's really exciting. You never really hear of someone had to stay. They ruined their career because they stayed too long in the minors. Usually, it's the other way around, when they come up too quick and they don't get the ice time to develop properly. So I'm really excited about that. They get the chance to play a lot, heavy minutes, and kind of figure out what works at the pro level and what doesn't work.
Danny, Nick Seeler is a guy that maybe looked like a kind of a clear-cut trade candidate at the start of the season because of his age, his contract, but he just seems like he's beloved in the locker room. Tortorella raves about him. Is he a guy maybe you would think about re-signing and keeping for the future?
Definitely. He's an important piece. He's played great. You saw him the last few games, how many block shots. He's well loved by his teammates. Great character guy. He's part of the reason why we're having success. When I mentioned those veteran guys, I should have named him as well in there, him and Sean Walker also. So yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. There's still lots of time before the trade deadline, but we love what Nick Seeler has provided us. We thought he'd be 6-7 defenseman for us, and he's played way above that. He's played in our top 4 for most of the year, him and Sean Walker, so they've both been really impressive.
Danny, really since the Drysdale trade, you guys have been almost exclusively going with 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. It's obviously not the standard. Talk to players, a lot of coaches, they don't particularly like it. Are you okay with that kind of being the standard for the foreseeable future, at least until the deadline, or are you looking to maybe get that back to a more normal 12-6?
Well, that's a question for Torts. But when you look at the situation, who are you going to take out of the lineup? And when you start looking at that, Zamula, his progression has been outstanding. He deserves to be in the lineup. Who else? Ristolainen provides great stability, physicality for us. He's been really good this year. I mentioned Walker and Seeler. They've played in our top 4. They've been amazing. You bring in a guy like Drysdale, who is part of our future, is going to be hopefully a big-time player down the road. He needs to keep developing. So when you look at the guys, unfortunately, in all that, the guy that's paying the price is Mark Stahl, and that's tough to see, but he's been such a great pro, and really happy to have him around. So that's kind of the reason why I think Torts has gone with 7D.
But I guess, is there a concern that it could have a negative impact on the forwards? Kind of giving them more ice time than maybe they should be getting right now?
I'm not worried about that. I don't know that it's going to be like that forever. It is what it is at the moment. We're trying to make the best of the situation, but Torts is in charge of that.
You mentioned team culture a few times. I mean, how do you feel, what happened with Cutter and what's happening here? Are you still off from where you want to be as far as franchise culture, or are those two isolated?
We're moving in the right direction. I'm extremely happy with where it's at this point, but there's always room for improvement. We want to keep building towards it. The next part is just the experience part, winning on a nightly basis. I love how we're coming into games thinking we're going to win every game. And we've had some good stretch and down stretches here and there. Part of the culture has limited us from going down the tailspins. But as we get better, the culture is just going to keep improving in my mind.
And related to that, the franchise was criticized for disconnect with fans, disconnect with alums over recent years, not being accountable in recent years. do you feel you, Jonesy, Dan have
Well,
turned the tide there?
that's really not for me to answer that. What I can tell you is that's the goal. We hope we've taken a step forward in the way we treat everybody around the organization, including the players and the alumni. So that's certainly a goal. The Flyers, it was part of the reason why I signed as a free agent in 2007 was because the Flyers organization was known as one of the best, if not the best in the NHL. So that's what we're trying to recreate, and I believe we're going in the right direction.
Dan,
So you've been in that chair now for, however many months. What about the job has surprised you? What's maybe proven to be more challenging? What's maybe been more enjoyable? And does the team's success maybe complicated the situation you thought you would be in at this stage?
I love the challenges. This is great. I mean, going into the season, I'd be lying if I told you that I expected us to be in a playoff spot 48 games in. I would have been ecstatic if you would have said that to me before the season. But at the same time, I also didn't believe the reports or the predictions from experts that had us finishing, in the bottom three in the NHL. I thought we were somewhere in between. I thought we were going to be competing for a playoff spot or close to it. Those were my expectations, going into the season. So that part has been a lot of fun to deal with, being a little bit more active and a little bit more inside, the top 8 in the conference and having a chance. I think it's tremendous for our players, especially with the amount of young players we have on the roster, to have to play critical games and big moments and face big games or big teams. Unfortunately, we lost, against Colorado, against Tampa, 2 teams that are, contenders. But before that, we also beat Vegas and Dallas and Winnipeg and Vancouver. So, it's the ups and downs. It's really exciting. It's great that our players are going through this already, probably earlier than we expected.
Danny, you mentioned about how
Last one.
the approach to the trade deadline hasn't necessarily changed your planned approach. But if you guys were to make some subtractions, some strategic subtractions, are you concerned at all that it could have a negative impact on that culture, on that strong room, just in terms of the players feeling like they're not being supported by the front office for their strong play? No,
I think everybody knows what the plan is. And like I said earlier, we're not just going to make trades just to make them. And, there's going to be a purpose behind it. A lot of it will depend on the marketplace. Like we don't know what, other teams will be looking for and what they're willing to pay. So I can't really say one way or the other at this point. Again, just don't expect us to go out and spend prime assets, trying to make a run.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.